Welcome to this presentation on inclusive education and giftedness. Let's take a moment to consider what is inclusion. How can we and why should we be inclusive? Because the radical reconstruction of schools and schooling is needed to meet the needs of a diverse learner population. Where we might have seen integration in our schools previously, we should be working towards inclusive education. This is partly because of our obligations. What is inclusive education? Christopher Rayner defines inclusive education as a set of values and processes which nurture all students' sense of belonging and connection to place, people and purpose. Now, those expectations. What is expected of us? There are international conventions, policy and strategies, federal and state legislation, and school culture, all underpinned by the principles of justice and equity. Students have unique abilities and learning needs. Our schools should take these diverse needs into account for the benefit of the individual and for the benefit of an inclusive and just society. This is according to the Salamanca Statement of 1994. Also, education should be for the fullest development of students' potential, according to the United Nations General Assembly of 1948. The Alice Springs Education Declaration envisions an education system for a world-class education system that encourages and supports every student to be the very best they can be, no matter where they live or what kind of learning challenges they may face. Federal and state legislation dictate that inclusion is a pillar of our education system. This is under the Disability Standards for Education, which outlines the rights of students with disabilities and the obligations of teachers. And professional obligations. The Australian Institute for Teaching and School Leadership outlines 3 which relate to this, including differentiating for specific learning needs, support for full participation. And school culture. Is our school culture inclusive? Do we foster a spirit of understanding, peace and tolerance? Diversity. What does it mean to you? The more we anticipate, accommodate and celebrate diversity, the better position our diverse students will be in to flourish. Our school is more diverse than we may think. Diversity can be observed across schools, but it also is observed within the individuals of our schools. Yes, individuals are inherently diverse. Take a moment to understand them. This is particularly evident in gifted students. According to Nehart and Betz's revised profiles of the gifted and talented, gifted students often experience frustration, anxiety and learning difficulties. Milhouse notes that 36% of students in Tasmania identified as gifted may also be experiencing vision, reading difficulties, anxiety, ADHD or ASD or other learning difficulties. So gifted students are diverse as a category or a group and in themselves. This makes it difficult to identify giftedness. As Milhouse points out, gifted students don't come as well-rounded packages. Gifted, talented. Are these the same? Well, no, not really. According to Gagné's differentiated model for gifted and talented, or the DMGT, giftedness is defined as being within the top 10% in one or more domains of natural ability. Whereas talent is defined as being within the top 10% in one or more competencies. So giftedness, if it's not fostered, if it's not cultivated, if it's not identified, what happens to it? Well, it gets lost. But giftedness can be translated into talent through developmental processes by teachers. Imagine the kind of students we could cultivate, the kind of talent we could cultivate if we appropriately and effectively identified giftedness and adjusted our teaching accordingly. This is the role of teachers in the developmental processes. Lassie describes this as growing gifts into talents. There are three main segments in the developmental processes, both formal and informal. Teachers should be aware of these and adjust accordingly. See this? This is a gift or a seed. Through developmental processes, a seed can develop and grow and flourish, just like our gifted students who become talented members of our future societies. The revised profiles offer 6 profiles of the gifted and talented: the successful, who require accelerated learning; the creative, who sometimes need alternative assessments and are disorganised; the underground, who sometimes don't understand their abilities and need increased self-confidence; the at-risk, who underachieve and hide their abilities; the twice exceptional, who need their disabilities identified and their gifts supported; and the autonomous, who are goal-orientated. If we can identify giftedness, we can properly address these students' unique learning needs. We can promote excellence in our students. But identifying giftedness can be a difficult task for teachers. Teachers hold incorrect stereotypes about giftedness and gifted students. These stereotypes risk negatively affecting gifted students. We should reflect on ourselves, on giftedness, and come to better understand the individuals who are gifted. Wellish suggests that underachieving gifted students who may have acquired social-emotional problems environmentally can be misidentified under Gagné's model, creating further difficulties. Neyhout and Betz's profiles of giftedness provide a detailed means of identifying giftedness in their 6 categories, and Milhouse provides practical advice on identifying giftedness in Tasmanian schools. Parents often identify giftedness early. Psych and IQ tests can verify giftedness. Teachers should look for students who are reluctant to write, who find it difficult to begin or finish tasks, and for students with heightened verbosity. Observing these, teachers should have discussions with the school psychologist, principal, and parent. What approaches can we take for our diverse learners. These educational strategies for learners who are gifted run as follows according to Millhouse. Establish regular meetings with the parent and child early in the year. Accelerate learning. Support access to ACARA documents. Optimise the physical environment. Utilise technology. Bring in extra staff. Differentiate learning and listen to the individual, to parents and to experts. Indeed, parent communication is the key. Parent knowledge can be used to enhance teaching practice and better address gifted students' educational needs. The concept of differentiation is a teaching in the moment tool by which we can build inclusive learning environments. We can differentiate our teaching by adapting the content, process, product, and environment. The Centre for Applied Special Technology offers the UDL as a proactive model of inclusive pedagogies. Under this model, teachers examine how they can adapt their teaching for gifted students in three main ways: engagement, the why; representation, the what; and action and representation, the how. So we have theories and practical means of moving forward, practical inclusive pedagogies that we can take into our classroom. But we also need to reflect in this process as individuals and as teachers in a broader school culture. Back to this diagram. I propose one more circle in the middle, something beyond school culture, which influences our inclusive teaching practices. What might it be? Ourselves, our own attitudes. We should reflect on ourselves, on giftedness, and come to better understand the individuals who are gifted. Improving the behaviour of teachers towards the gifted necessitates improving the attitude of teachers towards the gifted. Encouragement of excellence in the gifted can be deflated by egalitarianism in the classroom, amongst other things. It makes one think of the tall poppy syndrome. As teachers, we need to examine our own attitudes. Our approach to inclusive education should be embedded in deeper philosophies and purposes, instead of merely directed by rules. Each moment of teaching is an opportunity for inclusive practice, but also an opportunity to habitually or unwittingly model negative attitudes. Our learnings from teaching students with special needs can inform and improve our practice with all students as we grapple with the multiplicity of ways of being in our classrooms. Our teaching practices are influenced, as we have seen, by international declarations, by legislation, by our school leadership and school culture, but critically our teaching practices, our inclusive educational practices, the gifts and talents of our students and their future society are influenced by the purposes and deeper attitudes we hold ourselves. These purposes, which we bring to school each day, to the relationships with our colleagues and students, are the basis for an inclusive education that is driven by a belief in the profound and valuable diversity of qualities inherent in every individual.